What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje next. Although the expectation has been that Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira will compete inside the octagon for the lightweight champ's next title defense, Justin Gaethje dropped some major news in a video for his YouTube channel. On the heels of Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier, who has trained with Makhachev at American Kickboxing Academy, stating that the champ should defend his belt at the upcoming Fight Night card in Saudi Arabia, Gaethje shared the latest update on YouTube.
Gotta get back to it. I'm gonna fight in the future. I'm hoping March. I'm hoping to get Makhachev in March. I haven't heard anything about that, but find out soon. Gotta get in shape though.
The fight would certainly come as a surprise, given that White has previously stated that the rematch between Makhachev and Oliveira would likely take place this upcoming summer. From the sounds of things, the UFC may have decided to pivot and give the champ a new opponent, which begs the question, just who will Charles Oliveira fight next, if not Islam Makhachev? With the new year on the horizon, it'll be interesting to see how things shake out at 155 pounds. Next up, let's take a look at Alex Pereira sends message to Israel Adesanya. Although Alex Pereira called out Israel Adesanya after his recent light heavyweight title win over Yuri Prochazka, the champ explained that with Adesanya teasing a hiatus until 2027, he wants to motivate his longtime rival to get back in the mix, much like Adesanya inspired him to pursue UFC gold. In an Instagram post, Pereira shared interview footage from Adesanya several years ago, where the last stylebender wrote Pereira off, saying he never watches him fight. In the caption, Pereira wrote that he would be willing to train with Adesanya. However, he hopes the former champ's words serve as a cautionary tale of sorts. This is not personal with Israel Adesanya. I would even train with him in the future, but Adesanya's gotta watch this video so he will never underestimate someone's potential again. P.S. Poatan, 2-division champion. Despite Pereira still having the advantage between the two across both kickboxing and MMA, it's remained unclear whether the two will collide inside the octagon again at 205 pounds, now that Poatan reigns over the division. Next up, let's take a look at Beneil Dariush talks about Paddy Pimblett. At UFC 296, Paddy Pimblett will look to return to the octagon in a big way when he competes against Tony Ferguson. The bout will see Pimblett look to not only return after a lengthy hiatus, but also gain momentum after a controversial win over Jared Gordon. Of course, standing in front of Pimblett will be former interim lightweight champion Tony Ferguson, who is eager to return to the win column and prove that he's not ready to call it a career just yet. Heading into this weekend's card in Austin, Beneil Dariush spoke with MMA Fighting about Pimblett's upcoming return. He was quoted as saying, "As far as talent, if you look at me at the beginning of my career, I was not anywhere near where I am now. It could be the same thing with Paddy. His growth could be exponential and he could become a champion one day. At the moment, I just think he needs a lot of work." As Dariush went on to explain, Tony Ferguson has only been fighting top contenders throughout his recent skid. As such, Dariush believes that El Cucuy will wind up giving the baddie a tough fight. With the bout just weeks away, Ferguson has changed things up in his preparation for the bout, training with retired Navy SEAL David Goggins in order to ensure that he's entering the fight in peak physical condition. Now let's shift gears and take a look at UFC Fight Updates. With this weekend's card in Austin, Texas right around the corner, let's take a look at some UFC updates that may have flown under the radar. Starting with some big news regarding the UFC Vegas 85 card on February 3rd. The card will play host to a scrap between Gilbert Urbina and Charles Radke, where Urbina will look to build on a May victory over Orion Cosce, while Radke will look to build on a win in his UFC debut at UFC 293 when he defeated Mike Matheta, otherwise known as Blood Diamond. The card will also play host to a bout between Markel Medeiros and Landon Quinones, where Medeiros will look to build on an impressive win streak that saw him pick up a first-round knockout win on Dana White's Contender Series in October. On the flip side, Quinones will be looking to bounce back from a UFC 293 loss to Nasrat Haqparast after a tough 31 loss to Jason Knight back in March. The card will be headlined by a middleweight scrap between Roman Dolidze and Nasruddin Imavov, which will see Dolidze look to bounce back from a loss to Marvin Vettori at UFC 286, while Imavov will be looking to get back in the win column after a no contest with Chris Curtis over the summer, caused by an accidental clash of heads. Last but certainly not least, we also have word of a scrap between Rodolfo Vieira and Armen Petrosyan at UFC Vegas 86 the following week on February 10th. The bout is expected to be a classic stylistic battle between a grappler and a striker, with Vieira looking to build on a win over Cody Brundage, and Petrosian eager to build on a 2-fight win streak that recently saw him defeat Christian Leroy Duncan over the summer. Heading into a big weekend, stay tuned for more UFC updates in the days to come. Next, let's take a look at more details on UFC Altercation. While Bobby Green and Arman Tsarukyan are both slated to fight different people on Saturday night in Austin, Texas, the pair were recently involved in an altercation leading up to this weekend's event. Although details were initially scarce, Bobby Green posted a series of Instagram stories shedding light on the situation.
Hey, I don't be starting nothing with nobody, but if you start that shit with me, I'm definitely gonna finish it. This shit just starting. It's just starting. Nigga might go to jail tonight. Around playing with me. Shit. This ass nigga ran up on me and trying to start that shit. He didn't know I was gonna finish it. I socked one of his homies. Bop! Stop playing with me, bro.
As Green went on to explain, he and his crew then ran into the same individual from Tsarukyan's team later on when he was by himself, and the man had a different attitude about the situation. That is until security arrived, and then the trash talk picked back up. Iridium Sports Agency, who represents Green, released a statement after the fact, which read, "During a media interview earlier today, Iridium Sports Agency client Bobby Green was unprovokingly accosted and attacked by a member of Arman Tsarukyan's team at the UFC host hotel. Bobby tried to avoid the conflict, but he was put in a position where he had to defend himself and his coach from the larger, aggressive group." So far, despite the situation, it sounds as though both the main event and co-main event bouts will proceed as planned. Next, let's take a look at Garry gets called out by UFC fighter. This weekend, Shawn Brady will look to bounce back from the first loss of his professional career when he takes on Kelvin Gastelum in a highly anticipated welterweight showdown. With Brady looking to bounce back from his loss to Belal Muhammad and Gastelum looking to make a statement in his first fight at 170 pounds since 2016, the stakes are at an all-time high for both men. Despite that, Shawn Brady had some time to discuss streaking contender Garry while speaking with media members leading up to this weekend's card.
I was asking for the Garry fight before I was getting Kelvin, and then me and Vicente were actually like DMing. Like Vicente's a super nice guy, super cool. We were talking back and forth because he didn't have a fight, I didn't have a fight, and we were like literally almost like we were pretty much scheduled, and then they called us and some things changed. But if somehow he gets past Luque, which I don't think he will, that's a fight I would like.
Looking at the UFC's welterweight rankings, Brady is currently ranked number 9, with Garry sitting in the number 10 spot, and his next opponent, Vicente Luque, sitting at number 8. Given the rankings, if both Brady and Garry win their next fights, a bout between the two could make sense, as both men look to continue their climb up the 170-pound ladder. Next, let's take a look at Colby Covington reveals UFC plan after Leon Edwards fight. Colby Covington will likely be entering his UFC 296 bout against Leon Edwards with his back against the wall. After going 0-2 in undisputed title fights, many believe that if Covington were to lose this upcoming fight against Edwards, he would have a hard time getting another crack at the belt. Despite the high-stakes affair coming up in just a few short weeks, Chaos has made it clear that he has big plans after his fight with the welterweight champ. Speaking in an interview with UFC.com, he shared his desire to fight in a clash of champions with Islam Makhachev. Number 1 for sure is Islam Makhachev. That's the money fight. That needs to be settled. USA versus Russia. It's the Rocky IV theme line. Rocky versus Drago. Everybody's talking like he's pound for pound this, he's pound for pound that. Against me, he'll see a real fighter. While Makhachev has also expressed a desire to move up in weight to contest for the welterweight belt, it sounds as though the general sentiment among the MMA community is that fans are beginning to get somewhat tired of seeing champions pursue champ status and putting their divisions on hold. With Covington's focus on Leon Edwards and Makhachev expected to defend his title against either Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje, it'll be interesting to see how the UFC handles so many fighters wanting to pursue two-division champ status. The MMA community roasted Joe Rogan for having Alex Pereira on his podcast. Alex doesn't speak English, so fans are wondering how it's possible to have him on his podcast. Here's what they had to say. Joe really gonna talk to Alex's translator for 3 hours? One person replied saying, LOL, yes, and Alex is just gonna talk about Adesanya for 3 hours and how obsessed he is with him, LOL. Dude's just gonna stare at Joe for 3 hours and occasionally say, Chama. Can't wait to hear his translator talk to Joe for 3 hours about Izzy. That would be cool if the dude spoke English. Why is Joe doing this to himself, LOL? even after all the disrespect Joe Rogan has shown towards Alex. He can't even speak English. How the fuck would a podcast happen? Top comments. The comment about Ian Garry being the UFC's Will Smith is crazy. How smart is Dana to just let people see the Holland vs MVP fight to see how people react? LOL. Strickland is the USA version of Bisping, in and out of the cage, and I'm here for it. Edwards was trying his best to get away from Colby because of his relentless pressure and wrestling. Gonna be a long day for Leon. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.